before you broke my state, I was talking about how good it feels to be like this alive again. Really, like that's like, you know, life was good before this weekend and before even like getting on the call with Luke initially and finding out niche and one sentence message and all that kind of stuff. Like life is good. It was comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was like for probably 2 to 3 years now, I've been like restless.
Yeah.
Like I need to grow again. I need to start putting out, not just kind of receiving. I need to start producing again.
Totally.
And
yeah.
And so like that was kind of good timing because that got me back in the mindset of coaching, doing hypnotherapy, just before COVID hit. So I already had this office. I already had started doing that work.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, being forced to walk away from stage hypnosis and entertainment as the predominant part of my business, has really lit up my fire to get this serious.
So
sort of.
yeah, that's the thing I'm kind of interested in right there is like, going into COVID must have been a wild ride for you. Oh
man, not only was it crazy for business, but it was like I went right down the rabbit hole in terms of what's actually going on here. And we'd be going down a rabbit hole if we discussed that, but it always a silver lining, always a silver lining, always growth opportunities. So I took it for what it was, started looking at other ways to grow the business that was less to do with entertainment, more to do with helping people. But just this last weekend, man, like I'm just feeling so aligned with the goal, with where I'm going, what I want, what I'm here to do, what I'm here to achieve. And that just being so clear. Like, and I've got some really good mates of mine who are also in business. We were doing a bit of a mastermind for a little while there, and every 2 weeks we'd catch up and they're like, yeah, I'm hitting this goal and that goal and this goal. And I'm like, shit, I don't know where to start. and this is a little while ago, but now I'm like, I'm ready to rock and roll with this.
Yeah. And that clarity is crazy. It's powerful. So yeah, I love it. Well, I'm gonna like jam in here for the sake of Brock's recording and editing in here an introduction that I normally do.
Check it in.
Poor Brocky, it's great. So this is the intro that I normally do, which is today we're joined by Isaac Lomman, a keynote speaker. I got this from your website, so I hope this is still how you feel. Or you can do your own version after this. Results coach, entertainer on a mission to help people all over the world realize their ultimate potential. Utilizing the incredible power of the subconscious mind, his presentations of hypnosis, naturally engaging, inspiring, and mind-blowing at the same time. Isaac has recently completed our 7-figure academy program and also recently joined our inner circle with Luke Hawkins. And I want to bring him on board to share his story and success for everyone. So, mate, welcome to the Coaches Podcast. This is very different to how we normally dive in here. And I normally ask you to share your background and your story. And so, you know, and I'm interested by that as well. I love your energy, but I just would love to hear more as well about like how do we get to here? I feel like we're starting at the end and now we're going to dive in backwards.
Well, we're starting in the middle. We're just in the middle. We're still in progress. I can't wait to see what the end's going to look like. What the legacy is going to be. But I guess I got on this path, and it actually took up until maybe 12 months ago for me to really realize where all of this began. And like it actually comes back to when I was about 12 years old. And when I was at that age, it was the first time I was introduced to domestic violence, actually. Right. So that just kind of came whirling into my little world, which up until that point, life had been peachy, life was pretty golden. And then, this person came into my life and just messed shit up. Like this whole concept of, potential dangers and also like limitations that people fall into and kind of get stuck in.
Yeah.
And even at that age, even at 12, I was kind of like, geez, how could I fix this? How could I create change? And there was, at that point, I had just no idea, no concept. And realistically, I was probably just mostly focused on getting out of the situation, which thankfully happened only a couple of years later. But, I think from seeing the destruction firsthand, that programs or habits, that if we're not in control of them, they can really impact a lot of people around us, especially people that we actually care about too.
Yeah.
So, and that continued for 20 years, like that whole relationship. So, it didn't really go away. And then I guess I got interested in success and sales and business and entrepreneurship. And with that comes mindset. Like how do people think differently when they're successful to people that are stuck in a loop or a pattern like that just doesn't let them grow or be more or any of that kind of stuff. So I got interested in that kind of stuff. And I thought that like, it was just initially, I just want to make money. I just want to get significance through like getting rich, especially like I'm a teenager. I'm 17 years old when I got really focused on this stuff. And I was listening to all the rappers like 50 Cent and Lil Wayne and like, they're always talking about getting money and all this kind of stuff. So I guess I thought that might've been like what was motivating me, but really, I realized if I wanted just that, I probably wouldn't be interested in business so much. I'd probably just, maybe go off and do like finance or banking or stocks or like anything like that. If it was just about the finance, I really found that it came back to impact and helping people like pop out of those limitations. So I was introduced to hypnosis when I was 19 and thought, this is it. This is the set of skills, set of like way of thinking, the mindset that I've been kind of trying to pin down for just like the last couple of years. And then I realized like, it's not just, for people that are already successful or already like from a decent family, but this kind of change can be generational change. It can be the kind of thinking that takes a family that has generations of poverty, of being stuck, of just like same old, and then that one person that realizes this stuff, gets this stuff, lives it, breathes it, takes it on board, doesn't just look at it, think about it and put it back again, but like takes it on, they can make that change and just completely change the course of essentially a family tree.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how
you, this is diving straight into it, but is that how you felt for yourself in terms of with family and that kind of thing?
I felt like at that point of like learning these skills, I felt like my whole life changed for the better. But I was grateful for some nuggets, that like came through other members of my family, like the ones that ultimately got me out of the situation. So like, I guess I'm always grateful for that. Like I know that, I know there's worse lots out there. So I have to put things in perspective. So, but where I am today, like far out, I guess outstrips where I probably would have been had I not been introduced to this stuff. Like I was just working at Telstra, just interested in like basic sort of sales jobs at that time. So then I, got hooked into this stuff and created a whole career that in entertainment that no one else around me had done. And I wouldn't have probably had the confidence to do that or the like the will, the passion to do that had I not found this, because it was that realization that I could make a really strong impact on people's lives that pulled me through the real risk of massive embarrassment, of like late nights, of sacrificing weekends and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like so worth it. It was so worth it to
So
do all
were you always like, I'm sure people see online, and even like, I was checking out your website and checking out some of the videos there. It was great. I sat there through the team. Were you always an entertainer? Like, were you an entertaining kind of kid? And like, is that how you kind of, we have coping strategies, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I definitely was. Definitely pretty comfortable being in like center of attention, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, I guess I don't know, my parents and my sister might say otherwise, but I probably was not like craving. I wasn't needy for attention. Like I wasn't craving it in that way. But I, from a young age, I was like, I'm going to be an actor. So maybe I'm deluded in thinking I wasn't needing attention. But yes, no, like I was very comfortable with that, and as a family, like my dad, like we grew up in church, and my mum and dad, mostly my dad, did a lot of the plays on stage in front of the rest of the church and stuff like that. He played Jesus. He had long hair for a time there, and so I guess I saw some of it. I saw elements of performance and drama and that kind of stuff. And then like my stepmom is she's an entertainer as well. Like she had like a part-time business doing that, and I saw them putting on shows like at a sort of a local smaller level. And I guess that probably planted the seed. And then I got into modeling at 17 as well. So it kind of all crossed over, and I had a few paths at that time. At 17 I was like, I'm done with school. I was in year 12. I was like, nah, thrown in the towel. I'm going to go join the army.
I love it. Yeah.
So I started
did you join the army?
Well, I started the recruitment process and was just going to go for the gap year, the 1 year thing that they had at the time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a rifleman and just go and shoot guns and stuff and bazookas and all that kind of good stuff. And they're like, look, you can do any one of these jobs right up to officer if you wanted. And you want to be a rifleman up here. I was like, yeah, I just want to go and experience it and like get amongst all the equipment. And then like I had the interview with the rifleman sergeant, like, and he's like, basically looked me up and down in my like suit, my probably ill-fitting suit, looking at this city slicking kid, like with metro hair, like all straight or whatever. And he's like, you're not going to be a rifleman. and then I walked out of that interview, and this song was playing, like Fergie's GLAM, it's in the first class, that song. Anyway, you can tell I'm not a singer. But that song was playing, and that was the first song that ever played when I was doing like the catwalk for modeling with like hair modeling. And it was kind of like this background noise of this. There's other stuff. There's other stuff to do. Take the silver linings, follow up, chase these other options, and everything's going to be all right. So, that was kind of an interesting little part of life there.
That's wild. I went through some of the U sessions for a period of time, and my brother's actually he's a lieutenant now in the Army Reserves.
Yeah, cool. Right.
Yeah.
So you did cadets.
Hey,
do they call it cadets?
The youth. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's the cadets is the youth kind of one.
Yeah.
But it's a certain kind of person.
And look, like I think it would have been a lot of fun
Yeah.
if I got in there, but life would have been very different. Most
Yeah.
likely very, very different. So,
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, and did you go straight into, like, you learned hypno and then you're like, all right, let's jump on stage, let's entertain some people?
yeah, pretty much.
Pretty
Yeah,
much?
pretty much. Yep. So the trajectory from like learning it, seeing it, applying it in the course and seeing people have massive change. I came back from the course, which was held in Queensland, and set up an office straight away. Just like got looking for an office, found one, started practicing on everyone I met. Like basically, and I was working at, like I said, Telstra, and I was sort of like a floor supervisor, sort of semi-team leader. So I'd be like, these new teams would come into the company and I'd be like, oh, you're on a break, you want to be hypnotized. And I just had this like almost never ending flow of like new people to practice on. And it was really great. Like these are people that were strangers pretty much at the time. And I could really get a sense of like real feedback from whether they were going into trance or not.
Yeah.
I think that helped a lot actually. And then so within about 6 months, I did some more training, got all that practice out the way and was like obsessed. And I think what really helped as well is that just before I went off to do the course, I'd gone for like a internal leadership program in Telstra and I didn't get in. So I was like done with that. That whole career wasn't like on the cards anymore. So I just threw myself into the hypnosis. And so then I basically got on stage 6 months later and just started like from there. That was ground zero. And like I just set it up. It was a charity gig. It was 2011. And it was to raise funds for that, like the first really big Queensland floods that happened where everyone was like really devastated by some of the impact. So I was like, oh, we'll just do a charity gig. I'm not getting paid for it. So if it's terrible, like I'm not gonna feel bad to take people's money, right?
Yeah.
And it was pretty bad. Like it wasn't great. It wasn't great. And, we had fun. It was an experience. And then like I was 21 3 weeks later, and I'd bought myself a gift of more education. And I think that is like a pattern I picked up the year prior of like, how do people treat themselves? What do they look for, like to indulge themselves? And like, at this time I was just stuck in indulging my mind, feeding it, growing it, all that. So flew up to Sydney, did this training course with a great group, Anthony Jacquin, at the time it was Head Hacking, and met some really cool other stage hypnotists and entertainers. And it was fantastic. It was like just a great weekend from Friday to Sunday. And that leveled me up like almost like 5 years in a weekend.
Yeah.
And came back, started booking my own shows at the venue, and very quickly like started seeing some really good shows come through. And it was kind of fun because we were almost all in the journey together. Like I was presenting the show, but I was just as interested in what was happening to these people as the audience. And I think that was a part of the charm, like, because and I still have that. I still have that when I'm on stage and I see someone doing something absolutely like ridiculous and I've never seen it before, I'm pissing myself laughing along with the audience. So we're all having a good time. So from there, like shows just built and built and built. Went from like 30, 40 on average to, by the end of the year, it was 100. And then the start, like the first January of the next year was like 180. Then sort of like round that 150 mark, sort of stayed for that next year. And then it started kicking into like numbers of 300-400 people rocking up for shows during Fringe season.
Yeah, wild.
And all along, like all in between these sort of ticketed shows, which was really like the experimental phase, just a learning phase of like going, I'm not going to wait for someone to book me. I'm going to just go out and book it. I'm going to talk to venues. I'm going to get it done and just start like building it up. And so that's what I did. And then I was getting corporate gigs. I was getting like sports, like football clubs, and then like SANFL clubs, like the state level. And then I was doing Adelaide United Soccer Club in the first year of doing shows, and it just kept building all these different corporates.
How were you building? Like, what were the primary strategies you were getting these? Like, was it all just like referrals pretty much because of running show into show into show?
Yeah.
Like, book him.
It was a bit of that. And then it was like, because I was doing public shows and I started to play with the publicity side of things and getting some media and just having conversations with radio hosts and all that kind of stuff, and being willing to hypnotize people on certain channels on air, that kind of started to get the word out there. So the very first corporate booking I ever got was for for me being on air for the first time with a guy called Peter Gers here in Adelaide in that ABC. And these people were stuck in the floods. There's so much flooding going on this time.
Yeah, there's a lot of flooding in your life, mate.
There was a flood between Melbourne and Adelaide, and they were stuck in this flood, and just it was pouring with rain. I don't actually know what was, but they were like listening to Peter Gers on the radio, and I come on and I'm talking about hypnosis and doing shows at this festival in Adelaide. It was really small. Like there was nothing. Like I wasn't there to make money. Like this is the thing. I think this is the driver, was that it was just fun. I was learning, I was growing, and it led to this. It led to the next phase. And so she booked me for SANFL Club, North Adelaide Roosters, and that was a great night. And they happened to own, the managing director happened to own or was involved in the Adelaide United Soccer Club, and that was big. That was like a massive session. And then it started to grow from there, because then I had some testimonials, I had some logos to put up, and then I could contact some corporates, and then it sort of started to build from there.
No, that's amazing. It sounds like, have you always been like, you know, people would probably say like confident, or like you seem very, very, you know, from that story, we'll say go-getter.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's a, you know.
No. So you know what? It's a very good question, because it's definitely not been always the case.
Yeah.
So this is the thing where I really credit that initial course that I did as a foundational, like a turning point for me, because I did a lot of work on confidence then. And at 19 years old, 20 years old, you know, you're thinking about like chicks, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Like, you know, that's always 90% of the brain space. So the vehicle for confidence, or the vehicle for recognizing confidence for me at that time, was, can I go and chat up a girl without any alcohol?
Yeah.
That was the standard for me. And and so I did that work in that first session, and then I stopped drinking for 2 years, and would go out every weekend and just be like chatting. and it was a massive change, and that in itself, that little building block, helped me in entertainment, because it was you know, I'm not getting, I don't, if I was to drink to get the confidence to go and entertain people or talk to people, I wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah.
So
she wouldn't.
So I guess that was another little piece to the puzzle to get that kind of level of confidence, and have something that I can work on and track and learn to have fun just by being my sober self.
Yeah.
And knowing I have different states to call upon just within me, in my own mind, my own physiology.
Yeah.
That was huge. That was massive. So no, I wasn't always confident. And like, I would look back to the difference between me in high school to after high school, a massive difference. Like, I had mates who had the kind of confidence I've got now, even in high school. They'd just go and chat to anyone.
Yeah.
And that wasn't me. I was the kind of shy, a bit geeky, like kind of tall, stringy guy. and just, you know, just didn't have that back then. But it certainly has changed now.
Yeah,
Shut me up.
yeah, that's right. It's great. It's great. Brock wanted me to ask you about, and I think it's a great question. We'll see where it goes. Is have you got any stories from hypno in terms of hypno gone wrong?
Oh yeah.
Whatever.
There's a go-to one that always comes to mind, and I think it's fascinating. Like I don't know how inspired people would be to come up on stage and get hypnotized or book the show after I tell this story. But I can assure all the listeners, all the people out there thinking about it, that this was early on. This was a learning experience, and it's never happened since. So what happened was,
with that pre-frame.
Yeah, with that pre-frame, I rocked up to a theatre show, which was it could have held about 200 people in the room, and about 20 people rocked up. And I don't know if you've been to many hypnosis shows, but there are the majority of stage hypnotists these days, like they won't do a show with less than 100 people there.
Yeah.
That's how we're wired, because we understand that it's partly a numbers game on the night. You can always train people to get better, but on the night with a random group of people, there are a certain percentage who will go under deeply and some who just won't.
Totally. Yeah.
And at least that was the frame in that many hypnotists came from. I didn't, and I don't. Yeah. So I look at everyone as the perfect subject, the perfect hypnotee until they prove me otherwise. Yeah. And so I went into did the show, I rocked up, and they're like, "Oh, you're still going to do it, or are we going to cancel it?" Or I'm like, "No, we're here. We'll do the show." But I had to just take whoever was there, and I got up there and did my pre-talk and called for volunteers, and I filled the chairs. I think we had 6 or 7 volunteers, and some of them were great. There was like more than the average. Like they were really good. They were going under, and the audience was kind of watching on and very silent, and we're getting into it and having some laughs along the way. And then I used to do this routine. And that's what I mean by I say I used to do this routine. Yeah. And like, it was kind of a complex routine where I would be focusing on one person. And while I was focused on that one person, I'd say a trigger word. This trigger word happened to be shoe. And all of the stars behind me would get a response. And the response was that they would smell the most horrible smell they'd ever smelled in their life. And it would get worse every time they would say the trigger word, and it compounded, right? So I'm working with this person here, just that, like, this other routine that's going on. And then all of a sudden from behind me, someone just throws up on the stage, just vomits. And it just hits the stage, and I go, wow, this person has just vomited from an imagined stimulus, an imaginary smell.
That's intense, isn't it? It's incredible.
It's intense. It's intense. And so I was like, okay, wow, sleep. You'll feel fine. You'll be relaxed. They like this theater staff are like,
yeah, while you're trying to stay in state and not be like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, this is the good thing about a hypnosis show. You can kind of pause it whenever you like by just putting them back to trance. But I cleaned up the vomit and got on with the show, finished the show. Like, it wasn't going to stop me. Yeah. But it was fascinating. Like, it was truly fascinating, because afterwards, like, I hung around and spoke to everyone there, and like probably there was maybe 5 or 6 groups of people, maybe even less. And at least 3 of them were like, I wouldn't have believed in this unless that person had vomited. Like that was the point of proof for me that there was something weird going on here, and everything else made sense when that happened.
Yeah, and as much as extreme as that is, it's one of those things you're like, hang on.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, what?
Yeah.
Like that is a legit kind of extreme physiological response. That's not just kind of like, like watching one of your videos earlier of the blonde girl at the Fringe Festival, holding her fingers together.
Yeah.
With super glue. Like, it's not just that, it's a full on like vomiting. Like,
yeah,
it's legit. Response.
Yeah, massive response. And look, it's not standalone. You know, people don't recognize it. When people have chronic pain with no underlying medical reason, no physiological reason, all that stuff, and they've got tests for it and there's still pain there, it's because the body's responding physiologically to something in the mind. Either it's an emotion, it's a memory, it's something that's being held, maybe it's like some kind of micro trauma or a proper trauma that they're holding on into their body. You know, people who get rashes or like allergic responses, in some cases, it's in the mind. It's not necessarily to do with that substance. There are like such a host of physiological, like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which is like, it's a medical condition, but they found it's so closely linked to stress. And now hypnosis, actually hypnotherapy, is the number one like intervention for IBS. It's now clinically recognized through studies, lots of peer-reviewed data, that is the best way to get rid of irritable bowel syndrome, is going and doing hypnotherapy. And it's that powerful to make a change on the gut, on the nervous system, all this stuff.
It's
like, so that's
interesting, isn't it? In terms of on a, you know, I guess like a Western medicine, you know, I guess you'd call hypno kind of, I guess, more Eastern, or alternative.
You kind of would. You sort of would, but
it's sort of not either.
It's not, because it's been in medicine, in Western medicine, since 1788. Like when Dr. Franz Anton Mesmer started mesmerism, he's a doctor over there just trying to treat people, trying to fix them. He'd done all the medical training up to that point, was recognized and very respected right the way up until the French, it's not, I was going to say Inquisition, but like they did this trial and it came up with some, like, it just didn't go in his way. He actually ended up dying, poor, alone in the gutter. Like, it was a terrible end for him. Yeah. But he was kind of the pioneer of ritual-based mindset change. Now, his theory was animal magnetism. And it was this idea that some fluid that we can like manipulate through energy and magnets and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's quite right. In fact, I don't think that's right. But it was James Braid who started to look at it in a different light and coined the term hypnosis, which is from the core word hypnos, which is sleep in Greek.
Yeah.
And almost as soon as he said the word, he coined that term, he's like, oh, I want to take it back because it's wrong. Like, it's not sleep, but it's stuck. And he was one of the first people to realize that it's something to do with attention and thoughts. And then it wasn't like till a little bit later in the 18th century that they started to consider that it's suggestion and imagination that is the leading force behind the incredible results that come from hypnosis.
Yeah.
So
what do you think, like, you know, and this is a hard thing to, you know, this is just really a philosophical or gut kind of question here. Like, what's the limit of hypno? Like, obviously it's known for, you know, weight loss and quit smoking.
Yeah.
You know, they're like the classics.
The classics, yeah. I should mention that all the early pioneers of hypnosis during the late 17th and the 18th and 19th centuries, they were all doctors, all of them. Yeah. So when we talk about it being in medical, I just wanted to circle back to that. The limits of hypnosis, I think it's limitless, which is funny because that's part of my branding. I do think that there are
link in here, mate. We'll have a link.
Yeah. No idea. So I think that there are so many applications to it. I think there's so much we can do with it. We're just scratching the surface. Even 40 years later, we're still just scratching the surface as we're kind of getting a little more defined on what it means and what parameters it can work in. Like there are limitations, you know, you're not necessarily, I mean, some people I've spoken to will say like, you can go out and you can cure cancer with it. I'm not going there. Right? I'm not sure. There's been some interesting studies on it. Again, jury's out.
It makes you kind of question, doesn't it? It makes me question about like chicken and the egg when it comes to, we'll call it broadly health, and broadly call it state of mind. Yeah.
Look, and I think that there's so much interconnected with that. It's like the lens in which we see life, the perspectives that we take. You know, I think that it's so powerful that, you know, every new drug company has to include a placebo. Like it's such a powerful factor of whether a drug is an actual effective drug. We have to accommodate for the mind and its own imagination.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. That's huge.
It's crazy, isn't it, when you think about
it? And it does go everywhere. So like, you're right. You know, there are habits that are commonly linked to hypnosis, because with hypnosis, we hold habits in the subconscious mind.
Yeah. So
if we could communicate directly with the subconscious, we could change a habit very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So anything that, like, you know, a lot of people call habits addictions, but many addictions are just habits. So, you know, people say, oh, I'm a chocoholic, I can't help but eat that chocolate. But there's no chemical in that chocolate that makes you eat it.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's an interesting distinction between a habit. What's your distinction between a habit and an addiction?
So I kind of look for physiological withdrawal, not just like wanting it. So I talk about this with my smoking clients. If you put a cigarette or someone who smokes versus someone who is on heroin, the person on heroin creates a baseline very quickly for that drug, for that chemical, where the body's like, I need it to just function.
Yeah.
Not to get any kind of hit, not to get any kind of like response from it, but just to function normally. A smoker, on the other hand, makes a choice based on two factors, finances and social reasons, as to how much they're going to smoke on average on any given day.
Yeah.
And a smoker has never died from not having a cigarette. But we know that there are physiological responses where the body, like the pressure will be increased on the internal organs, that the system will shut down, that people will die from not getting substances like heroin.
Yeah.
So that's an addiction.
Yeah.
This is a habit, right? And habits are powerful. Habits are strong. Habits are like really important, and not to be like discarded. It's not to be saying, oh, that's just a habit. It's a habit. It's powerful, but it's not the same as a physiological addiction. Yeah. And so it works really well with habits. It works really well with like pain relief. Two of my kids were we did hypnobirthing. Amazing results.
Wow, tell us about hypnobirthing, because that's something Jody and I, on a kind of like, you know, totally different topic. We've discussed it once or twice that she would love it. When we first started dating, because we both done hypno. Yeah. And when we first started dating, she was like, I'd love you to hypnotize me. Like, you to be a hypno person to hypnotize her. Did you hypnotize your partner, or? Yeah. And like, what I'll say is that preparation is key. Commitment is key from the mum, and it's a muscle. There's a muscle in the mind. So I start to look at trance as a muscle that we can strengthen. And the more we do it, the better we get it, the stronger it gets. So, you know, I talked about the percentage of people that you walk into a given room. There's some that are going to be really good and some that are not going to be really good at going into hypnosis. Yeah. It depends on how often people will naturally strengthen that muscle in the mind. Yeah. So we can all train it. We can all increase it. Yeah. Because so to you, so I think well, this next question I'm thinking about, I think it stems from some of God, what's his name? He's
Darren
someone
Brown?
he talks about I know his background. He was in a cycling accident. No, actually, maybe it was anyway. He talks about like thoughts is just that he talks about neural nets, right, across your brain as in a brainwave pattern, almost like a he used the metaphor of like flicking a sheet, right?
Yeah.
As when you flick a sheet, it's like a three-dimensional ripple through space, and the thought is like that. What for you, like on a brain level, I guess you seem pretty switched on. Like what what is trance to you? I kind of know the hypno version of like, it's a deep state of relaxation. It's not sleep.
Oh, well, I would actually challenge that, that definition.
Right.
It's absolutely not a state of relaxation. Absolutely not.
Excellent. Here we go.
So I look at trance and hypnosis. Those words are interchangeable. So I look at it like my definition, or at least the way I kind of represent it in my own mind, is that in the thick of our mind, we have this glade. It's like a beautiful space that's called trance. And we can get to that space in the mind multiple ways, different pathways that we can kind of cut through the bush to get to that beautiful space. And in that state of mind, so that, we can get there from strengthening our imagination through reading a really good book, or doing some art, something creative like painting or drawing or whatever. We can get there through overcoming pain in the moment to do like marathons or long distance running, yoga, meditation, all that stuff. It's all the same thing to me. Like they're just different pathways in there, different strategies to get there. But once you're in there, in that state of mind, essentially we are in a state of neuroplasticity. And so the deep channels, the deep grooves that we've cut into the mind over however many years we've been habitually running the same program, they sort of seem to flatten out. They seem to go smooth again, so that our unconscious can choose a new channel, or choose a new path, and start cutting a new channel for that area of our life. So that's sort of how I look at trance. And this idea is borne out in like an interesting study where in John Hopkins University in the US and Manchester University in the UK, there's two different studies done. One was on psilocybin mushrooms and their application to addictions, which I call habits. So smoking, anxiety and depression, things like that. And there was another study done on habitual meditators. And I think they had someone who meditated for like, it was a certain amount of time per day for about 20 years. And they put MRIs of their brains up next to each other, and they were exactly the same. And they were both activating the part of the brain, which I forget right now, which is responsible for neuroplasticity. And the reason why I find this so fascinating is that there's like meditation, like I say, it's basically the same thing as hypnosis. It's the same state of being. And you can get there through psilocybin and other like drugs like that, So, so that's sort of the long version of how I look at hypnosis, how I find it so effective for making these changes in the brain, in the mind. But I don't think it has much to do with brain waves. That's been my conclusion in the last couple of years, playing around with EEG machines. I don't think it has as much to do with beta, alpha, theta, delta.
That's because what I was wondering if it was a deep state of a particular frequency.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not sleep. I mean, you could suggest that it's alpha, theta, maybe, because that's like been associated with meditation. But I don't think that has as much to play.
Inconclusive. There's exceptions outside of that. Yeah.
So, all the non-state theorists will say nothing to do with
it. Yeah. What do you think it takes for someone to get hypnotized for a certain habit or addiction, and broadly uses language as I was listening and typing at the same time for it to work long term?
Yeah.
Right? What do I take from a client, or
Yeah, I think a lot of the core principles that I was taught, which I now teach, around cause and effect, taking ultimate responsibility. There's a book by Jocko Willink, which is called Extreme Ownership. And I think that phraseology, that phrase in itself is like 50%. So as a hypnotist, if we can move our client into that state before we begin any like overt inductions or suggestions and trance work, like we get them there, like it's much easier. It's all easy from there. So I think that is the big part. But then, like, you can do these suggestions and throw as many suggestions at them as you would like. The real change comes from a personality shift, an identity shift, I should say. Sorry, not a personality, an identity shift. When they go, I've decided who I'm going to be now for the next phase of my life, maybe even to the end of my life. When they say, I'm going to walk away from that identity, from holding on to this idea that I am a person, I'm an anxious person, I'm a depressed person, I'm a smoker. When they go, I'm not going to be any of those people anymore. I'm going to say, rather than saying I'm an anxious person, I'm going to be a confident person.
Yeah.
Rather than being a depressed person, I'm going to be an outgoing person. Rather than being a smoker, I'm going to be a non-smoker.
Yeah.
Rather than being the fat person, I'm going to be the healthy person.
Totally.
And so if they're holding that identity in their mind, so that every time you say, I want you to think about yourself having a shower, people go, what are you trying to get me to think about myself naked? But that little image in the mind, whatever comes up, that's your internal awareness or your internal image of who you are. And if that person is forever an overweight person, then you're going to have a lot of hard work, a lot of willpower, a lot of struggle trying to be a healthy person. When you change that image and the internal image of who we are, then we work towards it. Then the unconscious mind can absolutely identify the difference between where you are and where you're meant to be, and it will take you there. Same with wealth, like mindset around wealth and abundance, what we're supposed to receive, all that kind of stuff.
That's epic. I love that. I'd love to go into now, because I don't know this stuff, and I'd love to hear about where you're taking it. So obviously COVID hit and everything like that, and the stage hypno kind of went a bit wild with that. Hit a bit of a roadblock.
That kind of put a dampener on things.
100%. And so I'm curious now, like you mentioned at the very start how you feel like super aligned, and your next part, your next journey. What's the next like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months look like for Isaac?
Like a few changes, but these have been things that have been bubbling along under the surface for me for probably about a year, 2 years, maybe. And so now I recognize like this next phase of what I do of hypnosis, and what I think was aligned to me the very beginning, but I didn't want to step into just like being a teacher straight away until I had some experience, until I'd built my own individual experience, body of work, body of like putting it all together for myself. So now 10 years has passed, 11 years has passed, and I've done a lot with this, and it's been fun. It's been a wild journey. Now it's time to pass it on. So this next 3, 6, 12 months into years is going to be me teaching people this stuff, the stuff that changed my life, teaching people how to apply these skills into not only themselves, like in their own life, but to create a business doing what I've done and helping other people connect into these changes at that subconscious core, subconscious level, and to grow a business that will not only be financially very comfortable, but like it's ticking so many other boxes. They'll feel like they're contributing back to society, the global society, the local society, the community level. There'll be personal growth for themselves as they help others through these changes. There's a lot of variety in this work too. As we just in this conversation, right? There's so many different ways to apply it. Like you can get stuck in a single area, a single niche, and just live there and just smash that one area of hypnosis and say no to like 99% of it, and you'd be busy for the rest of your life. Yeah. Right. So there's a lot of variety opportunities as well. And, you know, I think really that's the next part of this, is that I have been gifted with a comfort on a stage and like leading people through a process and teaching. And I guess I've been sort of holding that back for probably too long now. I've been like, just a little bit longer, just a little bit. And now it's like washing over me. Like, no, this is where I need to go. This is what needs to happen. Yeah. And I really can't wait. I'm just so excited to deliver this stuff and help people make their own changes in their own life.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Perfect. Well, Isaac, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, mate. I love talking to you. And to everyone listening as well, thank you for tuning in. Where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, best bet, isaac.lomman.com, ISACLOMMAN.com.
Yep.
And that, you know, just use my name on all the socials, the LinkedIn, the Facebook, the Insta. That's where you can find me, and all the details should be there.
Too easy.
And they can reach out and have a chat. So, but I actually offer a free coaching session too at the moment, just the next couple of weeks. So for anyone listening that wants to see how this can help them, jump on.
I love it. Too easy, mate. Well, thank you so much again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Callum.